Berniers on love. Love is a temporary madness. It erupts like volcanoes and then subsides. And when it subsides, you have to make a decision. You have to work out whether your roots have so entwined together that it is inconceivable that you should ever be apart. Because this is what love is. Love is not breathlessness. It is not excitement. It is not promulgation of eternal passion. That is just being in love, which any fool can do. Love itself is what is left over when being in love has burned away. And this is both an art and a fortunate accident. Those that truly love have roots that grow together towards each other under the ground. And when all the pretty blossoms have fallen from their branches, they find that they are one tree and not two. Now, a verse from the Bible regarding love, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. And finally, a poem on friendship in marriage. It is often said that it is love that makes the world go round. However, without doubt, it is friendship which keeps our spinning existence on an even keel. True friendship provokes so many of the essentials for a happy life. It is the foundation on which to build an enduring relationship. It is the mortar which bonds us together in harmony. And it is the calm, warm protection we sometimes need when the world outside seems cold and chaotic. True friendship holds a mirror to our foibles and our failings without destroying our sense of worthiness. True friendship nurtures our hopes, supports us in our disappointments, and encourages us to grow to our best potential. This couple came together as friends. They pledged to each other not only their love, but also the strength, warmth, and most importantly, the fun of a true friendship. Dara and Lenny.
Today I want to talk about the freedom that's found in marriage. I want Dan and Lara to be inspired by the freedom found in the commitments that you've just made to each other. Very important commitments and promises that you've just made. And I want to talk about this because often people think it's the other way around, that marriage means a loss of freedom. You've probably heard of Bucks Nights, where the groom has been handcuffed or chained to a pole, and the joke is, well, get used to it. That's what marriage is going to be like. Many a best man speech at the reception is littered with jokes along these kinds of lines. We could be having a few tonight, I don't know. But the common assumption is that marriage means a loss of freedom. Now, that's only true if freedom is the capacity to do anything you want. That is, the absence of any limits or restrictions. If that's what freedom is, then certainly marriage will bring it to an end. For a start, Dan and Lara have just pledged that they will forsake all others and be faithful to each other as long as they both shall live. That certainly sets limits on things, doesn't it? They're limited to each other, and being faithful means ruling out a lot of other options. But is freedom really about the absence of limitations or restrictions? Isn't all of life about choosing some things that rule out others? If you accept a job, aren't you choosing that job over all the other ones you could have had? And if that job suits you and it's fulfilling, then that choice of job has not resulted in a loss, but in a gain. So it is with our choices. In fact, it can be the case that accepting limits is the means to greater freedom. Take, for example, Jared Hayne. the fullback for the Parramatta Eels. Now, do we have any Eels fans here today? You have made a great sacrifice by being here. And I trust that Dan and Lara will thank you profusely at the end of the day. But Jared Haynes had a key role in the success of the Eels as they've won 10 out of the last 11 games to get into the grand final. Now, last year, he turned his life around. Instead of the usual footy player lifestyle, he took on some self-discipline and was able to focus on his game. As a result of limiting himself in some areas, he's found a new freedom in his game. In fact, he was on the front page of the Herald yesterday, and they described his game as free as a kite with the string cut. And you see, he's by accepting some limits, he's actually become more Jared Hayne, not less. Freedom is not the absence of limits, but finding the ones that fit with who we are. A fish is only free in water. The ocean is just the right environment in which you can grow and thrive and be truly fishy. Human beings are most free and alive in relationships of love. That's not just true of marriage, it's true of all kinds of relationships. For example, children are free in the love of their parents, even while the love of their parents sets boundaries for them. Children without boundaries don't actually know that they're loved. There are also relationships like friendships, where deep friendships are very liberating, as we heard. They give you that encouragement you need. So humans are most free and alive in relationships of love, even while those relationships involve constraints. So Dan and Lara, I want to urge you to enter into this reality wholeheartedly. You see, when you understand the truth about freedom, then you can embrace the limitations, because you know it's actually going to be a part of how you grow. For example, you can't make major decisions on your own. These things need to be shared. You'll need to give the other person a say in how you live your life. In that way, you have to give up your independence. And yet that's the path to real closeness and intimacy and the fulfillment that comes in marriage. To surrender independence does not result in loss, but gain. It's in that environment of serving each other that we grow and thrive. It's in that giving of ourselves to each other that we become ourselves. And it's in self-sacrifice that we realise our full potential. When you realise that that's the reality of love, then you can embrace it and enter into it wholeheartedly. Perhaps you can see this from your experience already so far. Now, I know from my own experience that that's not an easy thing. In fact, marriage has shown me more clearly than anything else that I have an inclination to be selfish and to seek my own good. In marriage, I've found just how much I need to be turned around so that I can live in the freedom of love. And what has made the difference for me is a new appreciation of the love which God has. You see, God has chosen to limit himself in a most radical kind of way by his Son becoming a human being. Now, you think of the creator of everything restricting himself to a human body. That's limitation. Taking on our flesh and blood and all that goes with it, and even becoming vulnerable to suffering. Just this afternoon I was nursing my little 4-month-old baby and wondering about the fact that the Son of God could have become like this. Someone held in a parent's arms and being nursed. It's almost beyond imagining, isn't it? In an act of pure love, he gave himself up on the cross to secure our forgiveness and to redeem our lives and to reunite us with God in a love that lasts forever. It's through his self-sacrifice that we can become ourselves and be all that we were made to be. I said earlier that freedom is found in the right environment, in a relationship of love. And that's never more true than in a relationship with the God who loves us.